iRacing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year. But the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker. Especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs. Any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
It's the final throw of the dice for many a driver this week. It's the final round of your VRS GT Sprint Series. And what a track we come to finish. On the road, of course, to Liège, Bastogne-Liège, as I love to say time and again. It is the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, which brings us to our scene. It is full on with splits. Every driver wants to drive this place. Every driver wants to win this place. This is what sim racing is all about. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jake Sperry. Joining alongside me for the ride is Jay Kennedy as we bring in the action here at the VRS GT Sprint Series at Spa. And my goodness, what a combination that we have available. One of the true all-round circuits, Jay, that we have as we go towards the Ardennes Forest.
It's an amazing place, an amazing circuit, and one that always seems to bring out the best and sadly the worst in drivers, but it always provides an interesting battle and interesting racing. It's a fantastic circuit. And one that we all know, one that we all love, but the battles that we see out on track don't always go to plan. So this is going to be a very, very interesting night of racing. I'm looking forward to seeing how it does play out, but fingers crossed it's fairly clean. But a huge, huge strength of field, massive, massive points up for grabs, which means that the championship that we thought may have been pretty close to solved and decided may not be as decided as we originally thought.
Well, some of these drivers, you would say, are the elite of the elite out there here today who have found point upon point over the course of this season. We've seen a lot of differences, but up at the top, Max Del Orco, 2,061 points. He's got a race in hand, so to speak, as well. So he's really done very well out there. Gustavo Ariel is second and Nato Nascimento in third position. It's going to be a tough challenge to bring all the points in, but such is the VRS GT Sprint Series that a lot of people use it for a lot of different reasons. Some use this for practice. Other people use this sort of race as a way to go out there and improve their skills. There are so many things that go on, but worth noting that it has been the Latin American continent which has been dominant in the top 10.
Yeah, it's been surprising when we went through and looked at the championship standings before. 6 of the top 9 all South American, and 5 of those top 9 are Brazilian. So we've spoken about it a few times throughout the season, that it's always surprising to see an iRacing championship with no Americans in the top 10, but definitely been dominant between the Europeans and the South Americans, which is no real surprise, because that is the bread and butter of racing styles for European and South American drivers is GT racing. So it's going to be a very, very fantastic race. So looking at the field we've got a stacked field for this one.
Absolutely, and drivers are out there, and they'll have to be out there quickly because, of course, they are long laps around here. There is Rocco Barone, of course, very, very good with a volleyball in hand, but also incredibly adept when it comes to sim racing. You can see riding around virtual racing school all over the car here in the VRS GT Sprint Series and making that drive over to the line, a 2:17.2, quickest of anybody so far out there at the moment in the VRS Coanda Sim Sport number 4 machine. There is the Biela Racing Euronics car of Patrick Heinrich, one of 2 today in this field. Sven Haase is the other one who is out there in for Biela Euronics. And to have that legendary name, Frank Biela, on your sim racing team is something that gives you a whole boatload of confidence before you even start.
Very, very good bunch of drivers in that team as well. As you said, Sven Haase, Heinrich, 2 of the top I-rating drivers in the field. Sven Haase over 9,000 I-rating. So, I mean, you don't really need the number beside the name to know how good he is. We've seen it in races previous, but that just shows how good a driver he is as Heinrich crosses the line, jumps into P3, just behind another driver that we've seen quite a few times in this series, Daniel Lafuente. If I can get my mouth to work at this time of the morning.
That would be quite useful. Daniel Lafuente, of course, driving for Williams Esports out there at the moment in the Audi, doing a really good job. And this track does bring out some of the best, and they are all there and getting themselves through. Matthias Canapino is another brother to Augustine, who has had such a star-studded career. There is so much you can go out there and find of drivers. And it's also worth noting as well, this is a really stacked field here today. We got 29 drivers in this one. No, I scratched that. We got 30 drivers here today, all searching for times. As Lafuente goes on to a second lap, they're down to just a minute and 35 seconds remaining here to get their laps in. So if they haven't got their first lap working, my goodness, you've got to get the second. And we are words as well. We are running the endurance layout here today instead of the Grand Prix. So what does that mean? Well, seeing as they have to make a stop because they're fuel restricted, it's one of the longest pit lanes that you'll ever find ever.
Yep, it's over a minute just in transit time. So add in the 10 to 15 seconds that they need for the fuel stop. I think we're going to see a lot of drivers bunch up and just try and save fuel. I don't think we're going to see too many overtakes and moves early on as Lafuente goes to P1. Great lap from him. I must say there's a few drivers actually on decent laps at the moment, which is surprising considering their iRacing number, which is ranked on iRating. But Grabowski here looking like he may go up towards the pointy end as Sven Haase does go to the pointy end. But this lap here from Grabowski, this could be a challenger for P1 here.
Certainly could. Dariusz Grabowski over to the line.
Lap.
It's a 17.294. That's good enough for 4th position out there at the moment. I wonder, there is only one Grabowski I know, and that is Dennis Grabowski, whether it's either a relation or I would say Smurf account out there at the moment. There, with only 10 seconds to go, is Nato Nascimento, who is right up there at the pointy end of the championship, but he is really going to have to harry through this final corner. I don't think he's going to get there in time. 2, 1, you're out of time, Sunshine. You're not going to reach it. There, you can see 3 stalls away from where he needed to be. So, let's take a look at the starting grid, see how everyone is going to stack themselves up then today around this wonderful circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. It's Sven Haase on pole position, a 217.214 for the Biela Racing Euronics team, with Daniel Lafuente for Williams Esports there in 2nd position. Rocco Barone for Coanda. First McLaren goes from 3rd, with Darius Grabowski there in 4th position. Gustavo Ariel starts 5th, with Juan Blanat then in 6th place, with Patrick Heinrich there in 7th, and Julian Kesselhut in 8th place. First Ferrari is Marcos Saavedra. Did very well at the Nürburgring earlier on this season. He starts 9th, with Matthias Canapino in 10th position. Artem Grabov, then the first of the Mercedes, in 11th, and Ulas Oziildrim then in 12th position overall. Alvar Gomez and Gerald Chevalier. Chevalier top 10 in the championship. Starts this one off in 14th, with Callum Bradshaw in 15th and Philip Oldak in 16th. Last ever running then of the Ford GT, it will be Porsche who will take that place, with Scott Brazier gives its final outing here with us at SimSpeed TV in this form, with Antoine Morlaix then in 18th position. 19th on the grid, we zoom on down to, it will be Zach Plummer who will have that, with Julian Kraus in 20th. Thomas Hinz out of the BMW into the Ferrari in 21st, with Matteo Fortin in 22nd. Dave Meneno, 23rd, as the last person to set a time. Then you've got, from iRacing order, Ahmed Garib there going forward in 24th, with Nato Nascimento, Matt Caruana trying to channel his inner Fabio Caruana, one of the greatest chess players of this generation. Simon Shadlick there with Billy Fletcher, Flavio Saturnino, and Salvatore Lana then makes up the 30 drivers that will be getting themselves ready. Of course, they will be behind the iRacing Porsche first safety car for half a lap. They will take that run away from Stavelot through corner Paul Fred to Blanchemont, and then that final chicane, Jay, to get ourselves ready for racing.
What a stacked field it is. The lowest I rating in the field is still 3,500. So you needed to be very, very capable with your skills and your ability to make this split. I think we saw over 250 drivers register. One of the biggest points hauls for the drivers this week, just under 300 points for P1. So we're going to see everyone fight hard for the win, but you don't want to fight too hard for the win, because that pit lane is incredibly long. If you can save a lap of fuel, just in fuel saving, by being in draft, that is going to give you a great opportunity to gain time in the pit stops, potentially gain yourself a spot. Big thing too, this is not the start line here for the endurance pit. Go all the way around to the next section of the track and start on the run down to Eau Rouge and Rayon.
There'll be a few drivers in lower splits who will get that completely wrong if it's their first time this week and go at the Grand Prix pits, because, of course, where else would you go from as you get things going? But these drivers at the front, they've raced each other so many times before. At every single major event, they've been there. And look at how it was lined up by Sven Haase. He wanted that jump, and he's got it immediately. Get ourselves going through last source as the green flag drops, and Haase's got a wonderful getaway off of the front. Immediately slotting into line is Lafuente and Barone as they make that charge to Eau Rouge and Rayon for the first time. Single file all the way to Julian Kraus, who sorts it out with Zach Plummer. A wonderful get-go. Watch out for slowdowns.
And look at the draft as well. Looks like everyone may have got through okay, which is good to see. But Don at the front, Rocco Barone, he's lost a little bit of ground, and now, actually, sorry, he's gaining ground. Sven Haase's huge slide from him.
Wow, the tyre's not up to temperature then. He was going slow to back up the field. He would have lost that temp in the rears going through. And we know that the Audi is very susceptible to rear tyres struggling around this place. So as they go through a bit of side-by-side in the mid-pack, that was Julian Kesselhout and Matthias Canapino fighting out together a little bit. But a nice get-go there. The Mercedes in the background now makes it 2 wide. That's Alvar Gomez and Gerald Chevalier for position. Grabowski's had a really nice start as well in the Reich Energy car. So that's been really good progress. It's a who's who up there at the front, and they still fight hard in the mid-pack. There's one of the Lamborghinis going at it right now, and just in front, you got Thomas Hinz in the Ferrari trying to go around the outside here. Scott Brazier, the only Ford, final running.
Yeah, Brazier's been one of the very, very few drivers to stick with the Ford. So he will be out there trying to get some good points in this one. But amazing to think that we've got through the first lap relatively clean. A little bit of side-by-side and bumping that way, but we haven't seen anyone spin. We thought that we were going to see all sorts of carnage up through Eau Rouge Radion on that first lap. But well done, everyone. They've got through.
Absolutely, and that's just a testament to the experience they have as they make their ways through. Barone a little bit wide going through that chicane, which leads onto the Grand Prix pit straight. They'll have that run through La Source to finish off the laps, but it does count as the start-finish line there. They will race to that start-finish line there at turn number just before here. What is turn 1? Of course, the endurance pits goes all the way through, but they don't use the endurance start-finish line. They use the Grand Prix start-finish line. Keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, as they take that run again through Eau Rouge and Radion once more as they make that charge. Barone in second, Lafuente in third, and it's all about gapping here. Everyone is running pretty much nose to tail throughout the majority of the first 17 positions. Outside of that, you're gone. This is a draft central track.
100% right. And yeah, on that start finish line, yeah, using the start line for the endurance layout, which is downhill on the run to Eau Rouge, but the finish line is the Grand Prix finish line. So a little bit confusing for new drivers to the series and drivers that don't race this track too often. But as you said, these guys are experienced and will understand that and be prepared for that sort of stuff. But this battle between Barone and Lafuente, very, very intense. And I actually think Lafuente had the run on the run down the Camel Straight to get that move done and backed out of it. I don't think he was ready to get through. He's saving that fuel and forcing Barone to be the one to push and potentially try and challenge Sven Haas, who's just starting to check out a tiny little bit. But as you said, still within a second, so the draft will still be there.
Certainly will be. Of course, up the Camel Straight. It is uphill as you go through there. And
Up,
it's very,
down,
very
turn around,
uphill.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But this pack is going to be crucial because it's not just about where you are in this pack. It's about when you choose to pit. This is a strategy style race, and you'd see everybody now trying to make sure that they are in the train and saving as much as you can. There's the static camera set up at Blanchimont as they go on through this wonderful sweeping left. We'll actually corner pull Frere into Blanchimont now. And you can see just how much they want to use the circuit here and attack and use all of that road that they can. They've got to be careful about instant points. Spa is notoriously difficult. Not as difficult as it used to be, but still a true stubborn challenge for drivers who need to keep within 17 points.
Very, very easy to rack up 17 points. You could almost do that in 2 laps around this circuit. So, yeah, you're right. It has been improved and adjusted and made a little bit better in some ways, but it means that some drivers use that to their advantage and then push a little bit further, which then means that they actually run off even further and not only get the incident points, but also get the slowdown to boot. As drivers really aggressively there through Radion, and I love watching cars up through there. Beautiful to watch. These guys absolutely pushing the limits. Barone trying to get the draft of Haas ahead, but also trying to break the draft of Lafuente. Not wanting him to get through, as seeing one of our first slowdown penalties. That's Thomas Hinz, who's slowing down on the Camel Straight. Allows a whole heap of cars through. He's dropped back to 25th position, lost 5 spots just from cutting Eau Rouge Radion too much.
Yeah, easy to do, and it would have been through the final section. He goes up over the curb, and he would have get bitten for that. And, of course, it's lap 2, which is normally the most difficult. We're on lap 3 right now, so happy days are here again at this moment. So all of that work going in. Highest place in the championship at the moment in this race is Gustavo Ariel at this moment, driving around there in the Luperini machine in what is going to be P5 at the moment. He is going to be on for some really strong points with just how stacked this field is.
Yeah, we're looking at around about 260 odd points for P5 in this race, which is huge. Not going to be enough to get up to Max Del Orco, but definitely will move him up the championship tally and potentially get him up in that P3 area, which I'm sure if he was told at the start of the season that he'd be fighting for a podium spot in the VRS GT Championship, probably the toughest road championship on iRacing, because so many strong drivers get out and race in this field. I'm pretty sure that probably anyone in the top 10 would be happy with that result.
Yeah, we did have a little bit of side-by-side for a moment between Alvar Gomez and Gerard Chevalier, and that has just opened the gap between them and Ulas Ozildrim there in what is going to be ninth, in the number 9, in 11th position overall. Yes, it is very difficult to say Turkish names, we do understand. But Ozildrim will be looking to try and make as much progress as possible here and try and keep with Artem Grabov, who is in 10th place, because they are now off of the back of Matthias Canapino and that train going on for the lead. And it's worth noting that we're seeing that serpentine as we look at Daniel Lafuente. Rocco Barone is desperate to stay within that 1 second bracket, which gives you all of the pace that's available. In any other case, it'll be a case of Sven Haase just trying to shake him away.
There's a move for Saavedra through on Wall 8. So that's a positional change up in a 15th position. Not many moves happened as of yet. Oh, we got a little bit of side-by-side on the run downhill.
Oh, it's the Rottenberry car of Ahmed Garib trying to get through on Scott Brazier. You've got as well, just in front of that, the driver who's made quite a lot of places so far in this race, Matt Caruana, who has done very well. But the Rottenberry car still doing really well. Watching on the outside, looking in, is Nato Nascimento. Going through the left, a huge Flamengo supporter in soccer or football, whichever way you go from around the world, is Nascimento, as he now sees these two side by side all the way through double gauche and in towards the Fania chicane. And I'll tell you what, that Ford is hanging in there with everything possible. The Simpson Esports machine with 3 wide, and in the fence goes the Rottenberry car of Garib.
Yep, it was never going to work as soon as it became 3 wide, and I don't even know that Garib realised that it ended up 3 wide. Opportunistic there from NATO, but I mean, probably. No, I think that move was on. I think it drifted wide. There was Brazier, and he just took the spot as anyone would.
It was not a case of drifting wide. It was a case of drifting and trying not to spin it.
Yep.
Were there for Scott Brazier. That was the issue out there on track. But to the front again, Sven Haase with a lead, 0.8 of a second then as they go through. Lost about 700ths over that last lap to Rocco Barone, and the group just continues to stay with at this stage, keeping themselves nice and honest here as we find ourselves almost a quarter of the way now through this race. An important race in the context of everyone trying to score as many points as they can. Some great battles up and down the order. We look, of course, as we see onto the back of that group with Julian Kesselhut as he tries to chase down Juan Blainat there in what is 7th position at this moment in time. And I'll tell you what, Blainat's doing a really good job here in 7th. Yes, he's down 1 position, but you could say Kesselhut there hasn't really done anything in the Phoenix racing car to get close enough to attack, and that in itself is a win here.
Yep, exactly right. And just holding the position, holding ground, and maintaining that position. Interesting thing, I don't know if you've noticed this on the timing screen yet, Sperry, but Sven Haase yet to register a lap time. Grabowski yet to register a lap time. Ariel yet to register a lap time. A few drivers that have been a little bit liberal on track limits, and they also will maybe start to worry about that later on.
Well, let's think about it here. We're starting lap 5, and we are what is 10 minutes into this race. That would tell you everything you need to know. We're going about 16 laps here in this one with the pit stop as well. We've got some side-by-side going through. The SimLab car, they're fighting with Thomas Hinz on the brakes into the Fania chicane. Hinzy's going to make sure that that one's going to stay as is for the time being. That is Matteo Fortan. And just behind him, Flavio Saturnino and Salvatore Lana, both trying to keep themselves in play on the battle that we've got at the moment. But the key is, it's going to be about 16 laps, and you've got 17 incidents before a penalty. You have 1 incident point a lap to go out and get Salvages around.
And Sven Haas in the pits as well. So that's a surprising move from him. But yeah, what has happened here? I'm wondering if, you know, we're talking about that no time for Sven Haas. I'm wondering if he actually has a drive-through penalty.
Well, in 5 laps, that would be huge, but I think this is well within strategy at this moment in time. Of course, we are not oh, you can see he lost it on entry, trying to gather it 2-3 times, and then, whoops, round you go. He's so fortunate he has not collected anyone else in that. That was screaming, come hit me, and nobody did.
Let's see here for Sven Haas. But my thinking is that he hasn't registered a lap time. Or hadn't registered... no, he has registered a lap time. So, yeah, this is strategic.
Absolutely it is. So he's going to make that progress then onto the lane and into his box. You can see great battling going on. Chevalier at this moment in time trying to get by Alvar Gomez. We've been seeing this one a lot over the course, but also keep an eye at the front of the field because that is incredibly close. Fastest lap of the day goes to the driver in 5th position right now. The other of the Biela Euronics cars, that is Patrick Heinrich then, who has that to his name, and he is with that train, of course, with Ariel, Grabowski, La Fuente, and Rocco Barone. And you can see Barone under complete duress at the front. If you look at Heinrich right now, La Fuente is just completely all over him. That Audi is really pressuring the McLaren.
What a battle. And great to see that we've got different marks up the front as well. The McLaren and the Audi both battling it out. I mean, they've been the 2 most popular we've seen all season long. But the Lamborghini out on track. I think we've got all 7 cars out there today.
No Beamers.
No BMW, though. Yeah, you're right. No BMW. Garib also has DNF from this race. He's decided to park the car. But, yeah, every other car out there on track. We've got the Ferrari, as we saw. And Lamborghini and the Mercedes out there, too. But the flamethrower, flying those flames into La Fuente's face. He'll be getting a little bit sick of seeing the heat from Barone ahead. Saying that, though, great opportunity for him to save fuel and undercut at the pit stop. We say it time and time and time again. Much easier to make a pass in the pits than it is out on the track. And I think La Fuente is just using that right now. He's going to try and make that move there rather than out on track.
Well, we have seen a move out there. Alvar Gomez has now lost the place to Gerald Chevalier. There is Sven Haas, 9.3 seconds stationary in the box as he got his service. And also Philip Oldak now has decided to come down into the lane. So that is also something to keep in mind out there. 1 minute 9 seconds on the lane. That is very, very heavy. You are exactly right. It's 60 seconds of transit as you go on through, and these drivers will be pushing the very, very limits as they now go through Malmedy Corner and down in towards Bruxelles, up and over the crest, and at the very top of the circuit they now start to descend, but they are pushing the limits, and we're talking about the very limits here, Jay. They will be flicking through 1st and 2nd gears to make sure that they are going 61 kilometers an hour down that pit lane instead of 60.
Yeah, and they'll be, you know, trying to get 3 or 4 meters past the cones before they actually are at 60 kilometers as well. And making sure, the other thing too is that hairpin that they have to tackle on this layout. They can't drift wide because there's a big concrete barrier. That's very, very difficult to tackle at 60 kilometers an hour. So making sure you nail that hairpin is just as difficult as anything else. And you can find yourself losing a second through that bit as well. So making sure you get all of those things right in your pit stop and minimalising the time that you spend in the lane, very, very critical, as we do have a driver stopped out on circuit. Not just stop. He's going backwards.
He is going backwards. That is Antoine Morlaix in a world of trouble. He's crabbing backwards. That's even worse. He tries to get it flicked around straight. So the Valkyrie sim racing machine in a world of trouble out there on circuit. So let's see what's happened here. At the 15 behind, and that's just a case of I'm grabbing gravel. And not only am I grabbing gravel, well, I'm just going to try and make sure that I am staying out of the way of everyone, get myself the safest rejoin I think possible.
And I don't know if he was crabbing now looking at that.
Yeah, no, I don't think he was either.
Yeah, it was definitely an optical illusion because we both thought at the same time that he was crabbing, but then we both changed our minds. So,
tell you what, look at P6 right now. Juan Blainat has dropped the back of Patrick Heinrich, and now you've got Kesselhut all over the back. Canapino wants in. The Audi's against the McLaren. On to the Kemmel. Now watch this. Which way do you want to go, and at what point can you? This is going to be awkward. We might go three wide here on the run. Yes, we will. Big lift off from Blainat. Lets the two Audis go. Canapino, contact between the two. Net coded, of course, and that allows Canapino to escape through two for the price of one.
What a pass, though. Great move from him to get through and getting the 2-for-1 offer at the supermarket. Side by side again here. Piranha in the Lamborghini is the highest place of our Lambos in P14. Holds on to that position for now. Don't know for how much longer, though.
Around the outside at Bruchelles. He's not going to get the drive yet, but he'll have the inside at the speaker's corner. This next one coming up here, this left-hander trying around the outside. Brilliant bravery by Caruana. He's now going to have to try and get this one around the outside. Is it going to be a checkmated style move from Matt? Answer to that is, give it a bit of beans. Why don't you? He's still trying to keep his nose in, and he still has it, and he will do all the way. He takes the track extend and just falls in behind. Great coverage then by Nascimento to make sure he had that one scouted.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful move there. Did a great job to get that move. He set it up from a long way back, and pretty much took him 3 kilometers to get that move done, but finally did. You'll be quite happy to have got that move done, as we're nearly at the halfway point of this race. We're about to complete the 8th lap of this race. We've still got 10 to go. Barone in. Who's going to follow him?
Now, this is interesting. I had a look at the last 2 lap times done by Barone and by Haase. The difference was 0.02 of a second in favor of Haase. It was an 8.16 compared to an 8.14. So Barone now into the lane and now has a really, really important pit stop in the back pocket. Going through now Stavolo corner. Here is the number 1 of Sven Haase. Your net race leader, La Fuente, has been unleashed up there at the front. Question becomes, how good is the stop going to be by Rocco Barone?
100%. It needs to be absolutely pinpoint perfect in this pit stop. And as we know, we're looking at a less than 10-second pit stop. Will we see a change of position here with Sven Haase dropping behind Barone, or will Sven Haase hold on to the effective lead? He just comes across the the finish line now, up to the hairpin. We said very, very difficult, not only on the circuit but in the pit lane. And look at the angle that Barone's sitting on. I'll tell you what, this is actually going to be very, very close.
You have to remember, he won't have the momentum up the hill. He's going from practically stationary. There goes Sven Haase, and you have to take that a wide line around, and thank you very much. He's got a second plus on Rocco Barone. Brilliant work by Sven Haase. He's broken the deadlock with the early stop.
Yep, and that will be out of draft range for Barone. Pit lane transit time, around about a second more total. 9.7 seconds for his stop, but 10 seconds, sorry, 1 minute 10 for his pit lane transit time. Around about 9/10 of a second faster for Sven Haase. And guess what the gap is? Around about 9/10 of a second more than it was before the pit stops.
Tells you all you need to know. Rocco Barone pushing, but not enough in pit lane. Grabowski has a lot of eyes behind him. Gustavo Ariel thinking of a way to get through, and on the brakes into that chicane. It is going to be a case now of who responds. No surprises. La Fuente's turn now to to take that dive into the pits. At this stage, you'd say they'll come in one at a time, lap upon lap, until we pit party.
It's probably the first time we've seen all season where the drivers are pitting early. We've seen every single race they're running it to as close to dry as they can, but I think what they're realising in this race is more important is making sure you've got someone to draft with. Although Sven Haas has been able to do it without anyone drafting near him, but everyone else has only been able to get these good lap times in with draft. So surprising to see. But Lafuente, he's got a real battle on his hands here. Will he be able to stay ahead of Barone, or actually get ahead of Barone? Where will he slot in? The interesting thing too is if he does come out ahead of Rocco Barone, will that then be enough for those two to work together to close that gap back up to Sven Haas? That's going to be a very interesting dynamic too.
It certainly will, and there are the front two making their way towards turn number 1 right now, as they are Sven Haas, Rocco Barone, and Haas, of course, with the demand and the control. 2 seconds the gap between himself and Barone, and now he should be zooming on by one Lafuente. Lafuente getting out of the pits right now. It should be pretty similar here as they crest the rise, and just like that, he goes through maybe a little bit earlier than Rocco Barone. Barone's going to jump up on the seat, suddenly get up to speed. I'll have some tow, thank you very much. Nyum, goodbye. That is his P2 effectively on track.
What a sound effect. Didn't realise we had a sound effect studio here.
Oh, Menno's around.
Yes. Where's that at?
That's Bruchel's.
Bruchel's, yeah.
So this is all on his own. Menno in the number 29 machine. He's technically up 3 positions at the moment. He's just lost 2. Back end of that McLaren, you're going to watch it right now, is probably going to start spinning around, going down through. You can see on the brakes, trying to keep that momentum. Oh, I've just carried a bit too much.
Yeah. And it's so easy to do with that downhill braking zone, isn't it? It's surprising corner because you're almost tempted to push a little bit harder than you really should. So, interesting to see. Now, Grabowski, just noticing, did he just hit the wall then? He hasn't registered a single official lap time in this race. Not a single one.
Official lap time means that you've done so without an incident, and he really pushed it to the limit. So that was close as you could go through. Dariusz Grabowski then down into the pits, and looking at his incident points, and I don't have the numbers in front of me for it. Simply put, as Juan Blainat will also dive down into the lane. You've got to be a bit concerned if you haven't set a quote-unquote fastest lap in the race. We are, of course, 11 laps into this one. In fact, he just did on lap 10. A 2:22.9 is officially his best as we focus on the number 28 hashtag racing car there, as that makes its progress through. That's Flavio Saturnino and his chase against Zach Plummer.
And Zach Plummer, a familiar name to those who watch here on SimSpeed TV, was part of the Geodesic Homologado Championship last season. Very familiar.
Oh, we got some more great battling here. Side by side, it's Caruana and Nascimento once again. And Nascimento has just got it covered. But you know what? Matt Caruana is giving an absolute treat. I've been keeping an eye on some of the drivers here. Alex Dunn, we saw earlier on in the season, was with us. And there is the pit stop. And there is the exit. And you can see that is a underfill. What an underfill. That is a bold call by Grabowski. He has underfilled the car. He's got to stay now with Haase.
And he's within a second. It's not the button I wanted. There we go. Just on a second. And interesting too that Barone is within a second of Grabowski. So these 4 could all close up together very, very quickly. That there from Grabowski not only helps himself, but it'll help Barone and Lafuente as well. So interesting call, as you said, to do that. But the fact that he's actually been able to make it work in regards to track position, huge. Now, as you said too, just got to stay with him. If you can stay in that gap, stay close enough, that means that he will then be able to draft up to the back, save fuel, and bring Barone and Lafuente with him. Although Barone not able to stick with him at this stage.
For every driver out there right now, they've not decided to take the call to the pits. Alvar Gomez only the first to go in. There is Patrick Heinrich in the number 3. Gustavo Ariel in the 5s. We look backwards through the field. There is the driver making his stop, Alvar Gomez. So Gomez looking for a really good run out there at the moment. Get his stop nicely out of the way and move himself up forward then in the next one. Also in, Nato Nascimento, no surprises, had enough of Matt Caruana, doesn't want to fight no more.
Battle is well and truly on between Lafuente and Barone as well, because Lafuente wants this position, but he just can't seem to get through. Whether that's by choice or just by Barone just being fast enough or positioning the car in the right spot at the right time. But what it's done is Barone is losing ground to Grabowski and to Sven Haas.
Did you see that headlight flash there? That tells you all you need to know. He is now going to every trick in the Sim Racers playbook.
Yeah. One of our favourites too, isn't it? The old headlight flash. We love it. Love a good headlight flash. Lafuente getting a little bit frustrated and starting to show it. Down the second. Look at the run that he gets up through Eau Rouge, Radion, onto the Camel. As it's now starting to weave aggressively to try and get these positions and make up ground. But you can see visually that Barone back to Grabowski is now 1.3 seconds. That is no longer in draft range. That is why Lafuente is starting to get a little bit frustrated with this battle.
Barone's not slow, Grabowski's quick. That's the difference that you're seeing out there on track right now. Grabowski's closing in with the draft to Sven Haase, and it's not helping Rocker Barone having the number 2 all over the back, effectively getting a nice hot seat there with the flames licking off the back. So that's a worry. We're right on the limit of pit stops as well. All drivers staying out again. They surely can't go much longer than this on the fuel, and once more they'll stay out. I think they come in next lap, and I think everyone comes in next lap.
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw as Ulas comes in, we saw Sven Haas come in, what was that, lap 6. That's about 13 minutes into the race. That means that they've got probably, as you said, 1 lap left of fuel. Any more than that, and they probably can't make it to the end. So, well, or they can't make it back around for another lap. So, yeah, this lap is probably their last chance to come in and pit. This is the pit lane, or the hairpin in the pits that I was talking about before. You actually get out of the throttle, drop it back, and that was a little bit of wall there.
It was. I've seen people roll that, and Ulas Ozyildirim very nearly joined that crew of people who have rolled the car down there at that hairpin in the pit. So he's grabbed a little bit of wall. He should be okay, but look at Danny Lafuente go at this stage. He's trying to angle up Barone into turn 1. Late on the brakes goes the Audi, and the VRS Coanda car finds himself in all shades of nowhere in comparison to that Audi. But here's the difference maker. The kicker is that Barone's going to get an almighty runner here up through Eau Rouge and Radion.
100% is. Will he be able to make anything happen from that? No, not yet. Not at the moment. What a fight these two are having, though. This has been on all race long, hasn't it? These guys, pretty much from the drop of the green flag, have been battling and chopping and changing positions. I don't like that.
Lift.
Ooh. Yeah,
that was a lift.
Lafuente?
No, it was a lift for Barone. He got right up behind. I looked at Rocco Barone thinking he was going to go and commit to that move. He had the room and the time to do so, but decided, you know what? I'm going to sit behind. I'm going to bide my time and fight for the podium this way. But they all have to be careful about the paces that are being run by drivers in front. Haase, over that last lap, did a 17.9. Ariel, a 17.6. That's 0.3 of a second. Ariel and Heinrich are still in this one. And you know what? It's pit party time.
100% is. They're all diving into the pits at the same time. One thing too, I'm wondering, now that Lafuente's got that move done, has he decided to make that move because he knows that he can make it home now? He doesn't have to worry about fuel saving because he'd been tucked in behind Barone and others for so long. And Barone hadn't really been in draft range since those first 4 or 5 laps of the race when Sven Haas was leading. Is that why he's now happy to tuck him behind and using this as his fuel save time, waiting for the last lap, then make that move? Got lots of unknowns in this race right now, don't we?
Barone's not close enough to fuel save right now. He's dropping back. La Fuente's got pace, and it really does show. You can see it's only 0.4 of a second or so, but 0.4 is enough. You're not comfortable sitting there at 0.4. At 3, you're happy to sit behind. You're happy to be good. But now you've got a question now. Grabowski, Haase, they're making their way through now towards turn 1. Now everybody's in their boxes. Who goes and at what point? It's going to be a race off pit lane to see how good Ariel and co are going to do. Ariel goes first. 3 all going together as they take that charge and away. Look at how Ariel's made that work. It's going to be a really close battle here up Rouge and Radion. Mark my words about it. Ariel trying to get up to pace. Through will go Haase. Through will go Grabowski here on this straight. But crucially, Ariel has jumped Barone and has jumped La Fuente.
You would have a look at the gaps, though. They're probably close enough that La Fuente can actually get back in the draft and may be able to get back into this lead pack. Everyone is now pitted, so the field is as it should be. We don't have to try and work out where people are positioned now. And Haase, Grabowski, Ariel, the top 3. 2 drivers that didn't start in the top 3 positions out of those top 3 that are now in that podium positional battle.
And Ariel had a shorter stop than everyone else around him in the pits. You can see Patrick Heinrich is just behind Rocco Barone. Matthias Canapino and Julian Kesselhut are there just behind that as well. So that was a very interesting stop. Ariel just not in range, I'd say, with Dariusz Grabowski out there in second position. Sven Haase, I think, is in a race right now. And if Grabowski can just keep himself calm, he's there. We're on with Heinrich right now. We just moved to the Reich Energy car there, of course, of Dariusz Grabowski. This is an important battle here in this one. Dariusz has the number 24 on his car. That means he's got the 24th best iRating in this field. Sven Haase, 9,000 iRating. It's a select few that get to 9,000, and not many have found that. Only about 30 in the world get to 9,000.
Yep, and not many get any higher than that either. What have we got? 1 on the roadside at 10,000. I think Josh Rogers isn't too far from getting to that 10,000 marker as well behind Beneke. But very, very select few get anywhere near that. With us, you and I, Sperry, I don't think all of our iRatings combined to get close to 9,000.
I'm pretty sure that both of our iRatings combined wouldn't even get us into this split, Jay.
I reckon you're probably right.
Well, at least at this
That's
moment
why we
in time,
talk about
Sven Haase... Yeah, we won't talk about it. No, doesn't happen. 6 minutes, 50 seconds remaining here at this point in time. Now, in the pits is Scott Brazier, and as well as that, Julian Kraus. And they've been there for an incredibly long time. They've just been lapped.
Yeah, Brazier's actually been in there for 6.5 odd minutes. So he's Hins.
Oh, and Flavio Saturnino is not happy either, going out there on as well. He's not happy with the rejoin. So there was contact down at the chicane between Bradshaw and Hins. Hins got absolutely sent going through, and then trying to join it cleanly. I think's just had the red mist moment as he's gone through. There's the hit from Bradshaw, which has done absolutely no favours. And you can see Thomas Hins trying to rejoin it. I see an Audi, I hit it, and that was not fair ball by Thomas Hins.
No, agreed. That was probably not the best rejoin from Hinsey, but in saying that, that send at the start that caused Hins off the circuit was absolutely horrible. The only thing you can sort of think of there is a missed braking point, because it doesn't take much to end up 30 kilometres, 40 kilometres too fast into that corner. He'll be disappointed with that, Will Hinsey, because he's back going again. But a long way back down the field. Actually, no, he's not. He's parked the car. So potentially there could be some damage from that too. So he's decided that it's best for him to sit out the remainder of this one. But this battle at the front, what I was sort of expecting to happen has happened. Those drivers have slotted into positions. And what that's done, it's meant that La Fuente is now able to close up, use this draft, and will be able to close onto the back of this train. As long as he can keep pushing at the pace that he's going at the moment, he'll be there and potentially in for the fight for the win. We've got 8 cars at the front, separated by under 4.5 seconds.
Second time this race I've seen Patrick Heinrich go that wide over at Blanchimont. If you're going to cut the track by an inch, you may as well do it by a mile. And that was a wiggle through the mid part of Blanchimont, which is the scariest part as you go through when the car is at full load and committed through the corner. So fortunately enough, the track changes for safety have helped out Heinrich there. That used to be purely gravel over there. Ask Luciano Berti.
Thankfully, we don't have a lot of gravel in those sort of areas. If it was gravel in now with modern F1, I think those cars would just roll, wouldn't they? They'd get ripped in there and roll over. But no issues with these cars rolling over when they go through the sand. They'll just bounce over it within the iRacing sand traps. Lafuente is now down to 0.6 of a second behind Ariel, but Grabowski versus Haas. This is on now. This is a true fight between these two.
Oh, you absolutely have to bet it is. Club Central Eastern Europe versus Club Diach here. Up at the front of this field, Dariusz Grabowski versus Sven Haase. And this, you would say, at this moment in time, is a very important battle. Grabowski, of course, strategized himself very well with a shorter fill compared to everyone else to get himself into place. Haase was the first of anyone of your main leaders to come in, and he did so from the race lead to get himself out of trouble early and keep himself in some clean air, not having to deal with all of the politicking over around the race. So now you've got to worry here for Sven Haase. He hasn't been challenged over the course of this race. Of course, 9,000 iRating means that he wins a lot of races, but he knows he's in a strong field, and Grabowski is in for a bumper point haul, and into the wall goes one of the Audis. That's Alvar Gomez.
Yeah, we'll see what's happened to Gomez. He was in a pack, so I'm wondering if there's been contact here with... Who is that behind him? That's the 9 of Ulas, but no, it looks like this is a solo incident, so very, very easy to do. Run slightly wide, and then through the second part, you just get the car unsettled. I'll tell you what, good avoidance there. We need another look at that.
Well, as yields are in, getting well out of the way. We know Audis are prone to the rear stepping around. You can see, loses it once, tries to catch it, loses it again. Latest as you possibly can. I'll take my 1X and make sure I keep the race. It makes it look very, very calm from that angle, but my goodness, would you be scared as you try and go on through. Train of 8 at the front, all figuring for 3 spots on the podium and 1 victory. And crucially as well, we have 2 laps to go. They will cross the line with about 15 seconds to go in this one. And look at Haase. He's now starting to go all the way to the inside, trying to shake the toe. Grabowski is not playing that game because he knew he wasn't going to be close enough into Leicum.
And new fastest lap of the race on that lap as well, which is very, very unusual to see in this series. We usually don't see any fastest laps after lap 1, lap 2. But based on how much draft Daniel Lafuente was getting, he has now set the fastest lap of the race. That gap between he and Ariel 2 laps ago was 1.1 seconds. It is now down to nothing. He is there, and he is close enough to now fight for these podium spots.
But he's brought everyone with him as well. Okay, a little bit of a gap to Rocco Barone, but not a massive one. Heinrich then can't attack, nor can Matthias Canapino. It's all very much dependent on drivers starting to make moves. And these are drivers who have done everything they possibly can to make sure that they can put themselves in the best possible place. They've got a lap and a bit to go now to figure out where do you unlock that one magical move and can you get yourself into position. At this stage, with about 2 car lengths of a gap between each car, that's not happening yet.
I think this next little bit is now where you start to try and work out where you want to be for the last lap. If you want to try and get another spot before that last lap run, you need to try and make this lunge at the bus stop. But I don't think anyone's close enough. It's going to be the run down the Camel Straight, up the Camel Straight, along the Camel Straight, whichever direction you want to say. What a last lap we're going to see. Lafuente thought about it there for a second.
He certainly had a thought. He got well into position for it, but decided to back out of that line. But now we are on the last lap going along with about 15 seconds as they cross the line, 16 and a half as they cross. This is the white flag lap. as they hit the brakes and go in towards the last source hairpin. You've got to set up that run. Haase looks really, really good at the moment. He's managed to pull that gap out to about 4 car lengths here, and there is nobody in a month of Sundays that's going to catch him up the Kemmel Straight, or slantways up the Kemmel Straight. We'll say it however we want as we go up through these rights and lefts and now get the power down, and crucially, it's for third. Now you look, Gustavo Ariel, second in the championship, sees Danny Lafuente there. Lafuente is going to move to the inside, and crucially, he's going to grab a little bit of toe as well from Dariusz Grabowski. This is going to be an important move. Ariel lifts out of it then, going through, can figure out, I might have an attack a little bit later on here in this one as they go through Lake Hume.
Interesting thing too, remember Grabowski, the shortest pit stop out of everyone in the field. So not only just out of this group, everyone in the field. So he has been doing a lot of fuel saving, did a huge amount of fuel saving in the first phase of the race, has been in under that rear wing of Sven Haas the entirety of the second half after the pit stops. Has he got enough fuel to actually be able to make an attempt at getting this move done? Or is he still in fuel save mode to make sure he can make it home and hold on for second? Either way, this is going to be a fantastic end of the lap. Grabowski, Lafuente, Ariel are all there to pounce on Sven Haas potentially making a mistake, but Sven Haas and mistakes, they don't happen too often.
They don't, but it's been a great middle sector by Dariusz Grabowski. He has really clawed that 4 car length gap down to 1 here over the course of this. This has been some sensational action throughout this strategy all the way. Use your track extends while you can, sunshine. This is where you make your money. The run through Curverpool Frere to Blanchimont to the final chicane, and Grabowski's trying to unload everything he can. This left means everything right now. Look at the track extend.
Oh.
That's a huge track extend there by Sven Haase. He knew exactly what he wanted to cover that off, and by hook or by crook, he will use all of the instant points remaining in his back pocket to hold on the win. It's not how we'd like to see it, but my goodness, by the book, Sven Haase takes the win.
Wow, what a race that was, though. And so close the whole way through the field. The top 7 separated by 3 seconds, and there's still battles going on back in the field. Odlak trying to get through, but not quite close enough to get that move done for 12th position. Still more positional changes potentially going to happen on this last lap as well. Oh, that was
wow,
close.
Nato Nascimento was late on the brakes there against Caruana.
I thought that Caruana was going to come across, chop the nose, and end up getting spun there, but he held on. What a battle. But have a look at this. Still another battle going on. This is for 21st position.
Yeah, this is Morley, Maneno, and Mateo Fortan, who's been the quiet one. Now work out where you need to be here as you figure it out. Throw it down to the inside. Get that one sent on Morley. Goes Maneno. Can he slow it up? Oh, you bet he can. You bet he can as well. Through the final corner. Is that Morley out of fuel? It is.
Yep.
So that's going to mean that Mateo Fortan's going to go through. And can Shaylick as well's out of fuel. Both of them crawl at 70 Ks over the line.
I thought that Shaylick was going to get through and get that position, but as he put the foot down, he ran out of fuel as well. Also saying there's been a couple of drivers that have actually had to serve drive-throughs. This is one, Marco Sfedera. He's had to do a drive-through penalty for incident points, and Santorino as well also had to do drive-through penalties. They're going to be the last 2 drivers to cross the line. Then we'll get confirmation of the results. Of course, Spa races mean that you never know what's going to happen and whether the standings actually are official. Incident points have just come up on my screen. Grabowski 1 away from a drive-through. Ariel 1 away from a drive-through. Heinrich 1 away from a drive-through. Sven Haas 2 away from a drive-through. Everyone used everything they had. No more, no less. They were right on their limit.
Every single driver in this race was in double-digit incidents, which tells you all you need to know about how tough this track is. Sven Haase, number 1 on the car, number 1 here today. 42 minutes and a second, picks up the win by ½ a second against Dariusz Grabowski. He used every incident point he had to the max to make sure that he had it all scouted. Grabowski, a great points haul for him. He'll gain a lot of iRating in second. Daniel Lafuente will pick up third then for the Williams team, with fourth position going to Gustavo Ariel. A great result for him, up one, with Rocco Barone. Second for the majority of the opening part of the race, falling back to fifth, with strategy coming into play. Patrick Heinrich finishes off in sixth position, with Matthias Canapino there in seventh, and Julian Kesselhut in eighth place. All of the top 8 finished within 6 seconds. The top 7 split by 3.5. Artem Grabov finished in ninth, the first of the AMG Mercedes, and it was Juan Blainat then who rounded out the top 10 after starting really good earlier on. He dropped 4 places. 11th would go to Gerald Chevalier. Quiet race for him today, and we saw the trials and tribulations of Ulas Oziyildirim there as he tried to make his way through. Had to deal with a spinning cart, but did a great job. Philip Oldak then is the first of the Lamborghinis in 13th, ahead of Alvar Gomez, who did have that spin, and Matt Caruana, one of the biggest movers, if not the biggest mover in the field, gained 11 places for his troubles. He will tie that with Billy Fletcher in 17th. Splitting that up, though, is the driver he fought with all race long, Nato Nascimento. Callum Bradshaw, of course, had his hit with Thomas Hinds. He finishes 18th position overall, down 3, with Zach Plummer finishing exactly where he started in 19th, with Salvatore Lana rounding out the top 20, a gain of 10 places for him. And now we start to hit the dregs of this race and the retirements. Then Dave Meneno, then in 21st, Mateo Fortan in 22nd. Simon Shadlick then ran out of fuel with Mateo Fortan, so they both finished together. And then you get those drivers who had penalties or troubles. Incidents as well for Antoine Morley means he drops to 26, so Saavedra and Saturnino jump up a place more. But the drivers on the retirements, we saw what happened to Thomas Hinds on his hit. We see that Julian Krause is out. Last outing in the VRS GT Sprint Series for the Ford, and ultimately it ends in tears for Scott Brazier, who was wrestling the car all race long, and then the Rottenberry racing car of Ahmed Garib then finding out position number 30 as a bit of trouble. But Jay, this is what this series is all about, VRS GT Sprint Series. Sometimes it's used as a platform to elevate drivers who are moving up in the world when it comes to those special events and those leagues out there which are special and really get themselves going. Other times you see the very best in the world of sim racing decide to descend on a track and give it the best they've got. We've seen every single style of racing over the course of this season. We've even seen the likes of Rubens Barrichello for a couple of weeks. This is a special series, and it's proven so with some amazing racing at almost every track we've been to. 100%
been brilliant to bring this season to you at this time slot. It's been a very, very competitive time slot as well, and excited to say that we'll be back for another season of VRS GT Sprint next season. We're not sure on what time slot we will be covering it yet, but we will be covering it. So we will have the action of the GT Sprint Series back again. We'll confirm on our socials in the next few days once we confirm our schedules with other series, and we'll slot this series in somewhere where we'll see yet another competitive season of racing.
And the only place you can catch this level of competitiveness is with us at SimSpeed TV. If you have not had the chance already, you can like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. And go follow us on the socials as well. We're on Facebook, you know, so make sure you go there. We're on Instagram as well. Go like us on Instagram as well. That will be something that will give us a whole lot of traction to do a whole lot more things later on in the future. We've got some great racing coming up later this week as well. And we, of course, got V8 Scops going to Donington Park for the first time in a hot cup of coffee. That is going to be huge. I've heard some big names are starting to get their ears up and wanting to get back in on that. So a massive thanks, though, has to go to the Virtual Racing School, title sponsor of the GT Sprint Series, and as well have been on the replays for us here today. From Jay Kennedy, doing double duty cameras and commentary, my name has been Jake Sperry. This has been an incredible season, and what a brilliant finish that we've had, and we have seen to the very, very limit of what a sim racer will go to win a race. Sven Haase used all of his incident points and used it to the very, very max to keep a hold of that race victory. One more lap later, You might not have had that against Dariusz Grabowski. Mark my words about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us over the course of the season. We'll see you next season for VRS GT Sprint Series, the most tactical of all sim racing you will see in the world.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?